This is Online Pass, the weekly video game news quiz show. My name is Cyril Lachel, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions based on some of the biggest news stories from the past week. It's your job to answer each question correctly, so grab a piece of paper and a number 2 pencil, because this is a test. Question 1. Good news, everybody! Nintendo finally named their new president. His name is Tatsumi Kimishima, and he was the former president of both Nintendo of America and Pokemon USA Inc. According to reports from Nikkei, the video game giant set out to find a more youthful leader. How old is Nintendo's new president? Question 2. Speaking of Nintendo, fans of Fox McCloud were disappointed to learn that StarFox Zero has been delayed until 2016. Why is this development especially bad news for the Wii U's November lineup? Question 3. This week, Square Enix revealed a brand new remake of Senken Densetsu Final Fantasy Gaiden for the PS Vita. What was this game called when it was first released in North America? Question 4. Next year marks Resident Evil's 20th anniversary, and Capcom is finding new and unique ways to keep people invested in the survival horror franchise. This week, they announced a brand new action game set in the Resident Evil universe called Biohazard Umbrella Corps. So what do they intend to call this game when it heads to North America in 2016? Question 5. After a year of calling it Project Morpheus, Sony has finally settled on a name for their virtual reality headset. What boring brand name did they come up with? And now, the throwback round, where I pull questions from classic game magazines. Brace yourself, the next corner's rough. Who admitted this in Next Generation's September 1998 issue? I feel there's a bad atmosphere here that you can't do something new these days. I never would have thought that before. Now we're changing into an organization that allows people to create things. Okay, put your pencils down, everybody. The quiz is over. Let's see how you did. After the sad and untimely passing of Satoru Iwata, Nintendo set out to find a more youthful president to lead them through what seems to be a transition period. They ultimately decided on Tatsumi Kimishima, who at age 65 is a decade older than Iwata, called a warm and caring man by his friends and colleagues. The former Nintendo of America president was reportedly critical of the Wii U back in 2012. It'll be interesting to see how this impacts the NX and the rest of Nintendo's future endeavors. When Nintendo showed off StarFox Zero at E3 earlier this year, critics complained that the controls were difficult to get used to and the visuals looked outdated. Based on these reactions, perhaps it's not surprising to see the game pushed to 2016. Unfortunately, this delay leaves Nintendo with a perplexing problem. No first-party Wii U games for November. North American players will see Yoshi's Woolly World in October, and both Xenoblade Chronicles X and Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival in December, but nothing in November. This is a troubling development. While Sony may have forgotten about the PS Vita at this year's E3, they did not make the same mistake at the Tokyo Game Show. Sony and its third parties announced a dizzying amount of handheld games, including a remake of Seiken Densetsu Final Fantasy Gaiden. A quarter century ago, Square released this game under the name Final Fantasy Adventure. It later spawned an entirely new series, which included Secret of Mana. There's no word if this Final Fantasy Adventure remake will come to the US. When Capcom announced a new game set in the world of Resident Evil, fans of the survival horror series were understandably excited. When Capcom explained that it was a competitive third-person shooter called Biohazard Umbrella Corps, fans were a little less enthusiastic. To make things even more confusing, Capcom has decided to drop the Resident Evil name from the game when it heads to the United States and simply call it Umbrella Corps. or as half the people at GameStop will call it, Umbrella Corps. Proving once again that codenames are always more interesting, Sony decided to rename Project Morpheus to the dull and predictable PlayStation VR. To Sony's credit, this does accurately convey the message they're looking to send. It's virtual reality for the PlayStation 4. But come on, couldn't they have come up with something more exciting? Might I recommend PSX-Ray? After the failure of the Virtual Boy and slumping Nintendo 64 sales, Shigeru Miyamoto admitted that Nintendo had made some mistakes. He listened to complaints that the company had lost its way and was no longer as innovative. The famed developer assured staff and fans that Nintendo would retain their atmosphere of creativity. I'll let you decide if Shiggy was able to right the ship. So, how many did you get right? Let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're gearing up for a brand new week full of reviews and previews, including the long overdue look at 12 is Better Than 6. I'm also going to weigh in on Zombie Vikings and more. So do me a favor and click the subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.